Hello everyone, Brian here for Ginger Prime, and if you're new around here, welcome to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back, you sexy individual, you. That's what you get for subscribing, by the way, free compliments at the start of these videos. We are just a few short days away from the release of Lost Ark, and if you're anything like me, you can feel this excitement in the air. It's pretty much electric. Now, I played this game back in 2019 with the Korean version, and I was completely blown away by how smooth my experience was. And what I wanted more than anything else is for people, my friends, to be able to play this game with me. And now, thankfully, we actually have that chance. And speaking of which, guys, if you're really interested in joining up with a group of working class gamers like myself, pretty much check out the Discord link. It's in the description. We're pretty chill. It's kind of come and go. I'll leave it up to you if that's the kind of community that you're looking to game with. But moving into kind of the core thesis of why I'm making this video, I was originally thinking of calling this Will or Can Lost Ark Succeed in the West, but ultimately I kind of felt like I was just going to end up getting a bunch of yes, of course, obviously it will, from people like me who are very excited for it. So in and of itself, when I look at why I'm excited about Lost Ark, not just from the gameplay perspective, but as somebody who follows the MMO genre and likes playing a wide variety of MMOs, I'm just very curious to see how Lost Ark is going to do, because it is launching almost in a historic way. We've never seen anything like what is about to happen befall us here in the West, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So what do I mean by all of this? Well, first and foremost, you have a huge shift in the MMO landscape. We don't have a top-heavy genre anymore. We don't have that one MMO to rule them all. World of Warcraft has fallen, and everything is kind of in a flux when it comes to the genre itself. Sure, we're seeing lots of people bounce around and forth, but I think that's actually very healthy for the genre as a whole, as opposed to basically never leaving, your comfort zone. And that, I think, is the first time that we've really seen this happen since the genre was born. And that's actually one of the things that I think is most fascinating about the history of MMOs. In the beginning, you really didn't need that many people playing your game. Like maybe 100,000 people really was all that these games were kind of commanding, and people played a wide range of them. It wasn't until WoW came and pretty much just, unbelievably and historically changed the landscape. And then enter in Lost Ark. So the second thing that's really fascinating about it is like I said, we had the shift in how the genre is being played out. You also now have a theme park based MMO, which requires content, which requires a content cycle. It's actually launching in the West with years of content, not just being at release with tier 3, but also in the works. And also we still have Korean development going on. And that's the real key thing here. So not only do you have a genre that's in flux, not only do you have an MMO that's launching with lots of content behind it, you also have the third thing. The MMO is dominating in Korea. More development, more things are to be coming for this game alone. So it kind of, in a way, sets the stage for a really wealthy, in terms of content, game. A really hungry MMO community willing to try out new things. And then finally, a roadmap and a way that you know that this isn't some kind of cash grab, because the game is still dominant in Korea. We've seen in Korea's MMOs in the past, they've kind of come here in the West kind of as the last hurrah, so to speak. And ultimately, I'm really excited by this as a fact. So Lost Ark in and of itself, I think it's going to do incredibly well, but I'm still looking at certain numbers, right? Because when we talk about just the history of people playing it and there being dips, I find the commentary community really interesting and a little bit uninformed. Now, you can call me whatever you want with my own takes. I know I usually stand out there a little bit differently from everybody else, but that's just me. Now, speaking more about Lost Ark and my experience with it, I absolutely love my time with it. But the biggest issue for me as a gamer is if I can't play with my family and friends, ultimately it just isn't something that's going to stick, even if the gameplay is incredible. I play and have played a lot of really great games, but if my brother or you guys or we're just not kind of playing this game, it ends up becoming something like, oh man, yeah, that was fun. Why didn't we stick around with it? Now, I'm not saying that Lost Ark is actually going to be that. We actually have a very excited community around Lost Ark, and I think that's going to basically kind of help it do really well on in the West in and of itself, but that also all depends on how people are going to define success in their minds. So some forces that are working against Lost Ark are its monetization model, are the fact that you can't change the camera angle. You know, it's going to have that Diablo, isometric feel. It's going to have that Path of Exile, feel to it, but it is that theme park MMO. So it is going to be accompanied with lots of different grinds. That actually speaks to me well as a player, but there are obviously forces that I've seen, doubt it's, that it's going to be successful. And that comes down to it. What is success for Lost Ark for you? Is it going to be the #1 MMORPG in the world, in the West? And in my mind, it goes, if it is, that's awesome. If it isn't, it's still awesome. It's going to do just fine, especially if you find that core community that loves and plays the game. And I think that community's already well been established just from being online and on the forums and talking with other players. I think the game's just going to do just fine in that regards. But I'm interested to see, because there's a couple of things, like I said, those forces working against it. How soon after a month when this game releases will we start to see, and what kind of percentage drop will that be? And then how will people decide to interpret that drop? Let's say it loses 10% of the player base, 20%, 30%. Is there some number in your mind specifically that you're looking for? Now, personally speaking, my whole worldview is that doesn't matter. It's actually a red herring. A lot of people use various quote unquote numbers to try and prove their philosophy about MMOs, but I find their core critiques to be very wanting and shallow overall. So if you see a player base drop, I wouldn't actually worry about it, because gamers also have seasonal kind of structures. One of the things we see within gaming is gaming can be very seasonal depending on the type of player you are. So I would bet that people, just like with Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, kind of return to a more of a normal consumption, where at launch that consumption ends up being a little bit overexcited because of that hype, because of the hunger. And for me, I remember playing the new Super Mario Brothers on the DS, and I overconsumed that game like crazy because it had been years and years and years since we had a 2D Mario game. And in fact, I don't think I even enjoyed my experience as much because of my consumption of it. So there can also be any kind of burnout. And that's also what I'm looking for to see from a case study perspective. At what point do we start to see burnout among the casual crowd? I'm not worried about. Casuals will bounce in and bounce out. That's what they do. That's not a judgment call. That's just a statement of fact. However, what's that burnout going to look like for the hardcore player? This is something where when I see this online, I see this with every game. I've played this game for 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours, 100,000 hours, and now this game sucks. That's the hardcore player mindset, and Lost Ark has that in spades, especially when you start talking about leveling out alternate characters, especially because they can feed you various different mats and rewards. There's a grind here, and that's great, and that's so great. But from just I guess essentially the narrative around it, the final pillar working against it is you have people who are anti-Amazon. I'm not going to sit here and say you can't be. Everybody gets to make their own personal choices. But when I'm looking at it, is this going to be something where you start to see the narrative of the speech around the game at some point being like, well, Amazon can't get another win, just so that gets people to click and that gets engagement, right? We're seeing that a lot within social media and those kind of markets. And so at the core of it, that's the things that I'm looking for, both on the positive side, stuff we haven't seen in the MMO space before, and on the negative side as well, the forces that are necessarily kind of leaning in against it. At the end of the day, I think this is going to be a very exciting thing, because even though February is a crazy month for video games, it's a crazy month of games that I really want to play and experience. Anyway, guys, if you're interested, check out the Discord if you want to team up with us working class folks playing some games at, in my case, sometimes weird hours, but we got a really good community and you can go check it out if you want. Guys, if you have any thoughts you want to share about this video and my thoughts about the future of Lost Ark, sound off below. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching or listening or just straight up being here. Until we meet again, whenever that might be, take care and have a great weekend.
A little off topic, but I just want to say thank you for providing me a friendly, fun, and optimistic community. Baby. Coming from an MMO community filled with toxicity, this is an amazing breath of fresh air. Keep it up, baby. Oh, yeah.